BlackStar was founded in Philadelphia
in a lineage of global anti-colonial struggle
on land which has been stewarded by the Lenni-Lenape people for centuries.
We call in our Black, Indigenous, and Brown ancestors
who bent time and envisioned a freer, more tender world for us, one that we continue to reach for.
We honor all Indigenous peoples and their lands and acknowledge the ongoing genocide and displacement of Indigenous and Black communities.
Merely naming the people of this land is not an act of repair, nor is it a form of decolonization.
After all, decolonization is an unsettling thing.
We use this reminder as an opening
to consider ongoing self-determination movements of colonized people across the world.
From Palestine to Puerto Rico and everywhere in between.
The violence inflicted on our communities is immeasurable and irreparable.
Still, we gather in the spirit of generous and joyful exchange and other cultural expression.
As Tony Cade Bambara has shown us, through cultural work, we create space for imagination,
critique,
gathering,
pleasure,
love,
and radical care.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for participating in the 11th Annual BlackStar Film Festival. We would like to thank our funders and individual donors, as well as our network of producing and community partners. Please follow us on all social media platforms at BlackStarFest and use the hashtags BSFF22 and BlackStar11. The runtime for this panel, Childhood on Screen, is 60 minutes, including audience Q&A. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Stormy Kelsey, the moderator for our panel today. Stormy is a Philadelphia native and a graduate of Temple University who has long invested in both local and international youth activism, social justice, and storytelling. As a program manager and communications coordinator of the University Community Collaborative, Poppin', they work with high school students to create journalistic-style video projects through a social justice lens and to develop their media literacy skills for critical analysis. Please join me in welcoming Stormy.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Do I need the mic if I have a... Okay, all right, thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. Oh my gosh, we're in person. We get to see each other. So I wanted to just start off by asking all the panelists, could you please introduce yourselves? Let's hear about you guys. You can start, let's start here, yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alaa Zabara. I am a Yemeni-American hard-of-hearing filmmaker. And I'm here, I guess, to be part of this panel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Iyana Lachey. I am a beauty influencer, an actor, and a model, and I'm so happy to be here today.
Hi, I'm Rochelle. I'm a television writer and director of a film that Iyana is in called Jasmine is a Star, and super excited about this panel.
Hi, my name is Bria Motley. I'm 10 years old, and I co-directed Quarantine Kids with me and my dad, Bilal Motley.
Hi, I'm Bilal Motley. This is my second film in BlackStar. First was in 2020. Super grateful to be here and co-direct the Quarantine Kids with my daughter. It was a great experience, and yeah, this is awesome. Thanks.
Beautiful. So as you can see, we're going to have a great discussion today. I wanted to give a little bit of a housekeeping thing. One, please excuse my notes. I have parent brain right now. I have a newborn, so I'm trying to if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. And also, when I ask questions, I want to make sure we have enough time for everyone. So please try to keep it to around a minute-ish with your answer. But also, if you get passionate about a particular thing, we're not going to be mad at that. Okay, so could you just share a little bit about, what inspired you to pursue filmmaking or pursue acting?
I don't know. For me, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a director. What pursued me to, motivated me to become a filmmaker is the fact that I was not able to see characters like me on the TV. And also because when I moved to US about like 7 years ago, when my family and I evacuated from the war, not a lot of people were hearing what's going on in Yemen. And that was kind of like a fuel for me to tell the story that I wanted to tell, what's going on.
For me, I originally never thought I would be an actor. I'm just gonna be upfront. But when I worked with Jo, she actually reached out to me. And the movie that we're in, Jasmine is a Star, is basically about a young woman, a young teenager that has albinism. And you know, Jo and I was discussing how there's not a lot of characters with albinism in the space, in the film space, in a positive, you know, in a positive way. So after she, you know, told me the story about it, I was like, I should, you know, do this. This is something I'm very passionate about, representation in a positive way. So I thought that was a perfect fit, and that's why I went ahead and jumped into it.
And she's amazing in it.
Yes, she is.
So I originally started out as an actress. I went to acting school in New York. And in my senior year, I realized, oh wait, I think I want to write and direct. But I was in the acting program. And so all of my friends, we made a web series together. And ever since then, I haven't looked back. I've loved writing and directing ever since.
I think 1 or 2 years ago, I did this acting thing. It was like this program that we learned how to act, and I really liked it. I think that was 1 or 2 years ago, and my dad brought up the idea of me making this. He told me to get a microphone and go in my room, close the door, and just start talking to the microphone like it was an actual person.
Wow, I'm sitting there trying to be proud, Dad. What's my baby? All right, so, okay. My parents were, my dad was a painter. My mom was like Etsy before Etsy, like a crafts person. Like back in the 70s in Mississippi, she could make a dress, sew curtains. Like so come from an artist family, and no matter what I did, and I tried to get away from it. I was a track athlete in college. You know, I told my coach, I'm the top athlete in the country. I told my coach, I think I want to work on SNL. It's something that just kept pulling me, like, be entertainment, be an artist, and no matter what I did, I couldn't escape it. So it's just something I just knew. It was really clunky getting there and working at the oil refinery in South Philly, doing all types of random stuff. So that's why it's a blessing to work with Bria, because if she wants to continue with this, it's all her choice. You know what I mean? You know, she'll have the tools. It won't be as clunky as it was for me. It took me a long time. so yeah, that's it.
Beautiful. So some of you have already shared a bit about your films, and I hope that folks got a chance to see them. And if you haven't, please watch them. But I was wondering if for those who haven't seen them, could you just share a little bit about more of your film and like what inspired you to share that particular story?
I guess I'll start. For me, my film is called Silahi. It's an Arabic term, means my weapon. It's a short film that talks about a young deaf girl who embarks in a war zone, and she has one love and is filming. But she can't go outside because her only main caregiver, her brother, became busy. So she ended up going on her own during an impending airstrike. And for that film, like I previously said, that what motivated me to become a filmmaker is because when I moved to US, not a lot of people realize or even know what's going on in Yemen. And also because I'm a hard of hearing myself, who have been through so many different things, and I wanted to share that kind of perspective of being a disabled character and living in a war zone, as opposed to just other films that had been told about just war and what's going on, but the disability is still missing in the mainstream and the media. And I guess that's what I wanted to do.
And Jasmine is a Star is about a young black girl with albinism who lives in Minnesota, which is my hometown. I grew up in Minneapolis, and I live in Los Angeles. And she just wants to be a model. That's her dream, and she pursues it really full of heart and motivation and perseverance. And yes, you'll have to see it. It's at 5 p.m. today, so it hasn't come out yet, but soon.
Quarantine Kids is about my experience during quarantine and how much of a hard time I've had, and
Yeah, and and it's we haven't heard from the kids, you know, how this. I haven't seen it, so. And this film was about, I just wanted her to feel better. Like she was dealing with a lot, and I knew she wanted to be an artist, and yeah, just give her a microphone, and she went in. And I think she spoke for the world, kids around the world. So that's why I think this film is so essential. So, yeah.
Totally, yes. So, Iyana, you mentioned earlier that you're a beauty influencer online and you're finding your lane in modeling and acting and everything. So for you, it seems like there's like some alignment with this character that you're portraying. Can you describe what it's like to play a character that's almost so closely intertwined with like who you are, how you might identify?
Yeah, I almost feel like Jasmine is me. She's 16, so when I was actually acting for the role, I had to go back to my 16-year-old self because I wasn't as confident. I wasn't as, you know, I'm still a little clumsy, but I wasn't as confident at the time at 16, so I had to go back and, you know, retract and be like, how did I feel at 16? And the character is so much like me. She wants to be a model. I wanted to be a model at 16, too. I was looking at American Next Top Model. And it's just like, that character is me. So I was so happy when Joe reached out to me and was like, hey, would you be, you know, interested in acting? I was like, I never acted before, so I don't know. But I don't know, it was just like something so natural to me. I'm just like, we need to see this. It needs to be created. So, and I'm so big on representation. So this movie was close to my heart.
Totally, yeah. I think, you know, representation, the importance of it comes up a lot, and especially, you know, when we're in spaces like this, right? I think that on the other side of things, it is still room to create projects where you're not totally connected to the person in the film, and I was going to direct to Joe. So for you, I know you were a teenager, I'm sure not too long ago, but you're writing a story from a youth perspective, and with a character who has albinism. So as a writer, how did you kind of tap into that, even though you're not necessarily from that community?
Yes, that's a great question. So with the writing process, it really started out with, well, what do I want to say? What am I trying to write about? And I looked back in my own past, like my mother who's here today. We went through some beauty pageants together. I also watched America's Next Top Model a lot when I was little, and I tapped into that part of me that was interested in modeling. And during the research, I looked into it. She had a YouTube channel up, and she was doing her beauty tutorials and her hair tutorials, and I was so inspired by her. And did a lot of like watching different videos from people with albinism who have the condition, talking about their lives, and talking with Iyana once she accepted the role, and making sure that we were representing it accurately, but also making a story that is universal about a girl who just has a goal, and she's trying so hard to make that goal a reality.
I love that. Was there, did Iyana come in the writing process as well to kind of like tweak things, or was it just like, how was Iyana involved in that
We
process?
definitely had conversations. There are two versions of the script. Like we had a longer version, and we talked through that one, and then we crowdfunded the amount of money that we had, and we're like, let's make a little bit shorter version, still a feature film, but shorter. We always were talking and having a dialogue. I remember when we were filming our concept trailer, you and your mom were on set, and we were doing a scene at like a school, and you're like, this is my life.
Yeah.
This is literally like, it feels like my life. So it was good to have a dialogue back and forth.
Gotcha, beautiful. So Alaa, so for you, you created this film that follows a girl who is hard of hearing. And so like the story is there that there might be some alignment. But for you as a filmmaker who's also hard of hearing, what is it like to navigate the film industry as a hard of hearing person?
It's definitely not an easy process. I mean, first of all, this is my very first film, and knowing the fact that making it for the first time and experiencing the lack of trust, the lack of getting the resources, or, you know, like giving me the benefit of doubt at least to make a film, made me realize that it's not going to be an easy process. It's definitely going to be a challenge because no matter what, I'm not only a hard of hearing, I'm a person who's a Muslim, so I carry so many identities that lacks the resources for me and for other people. So, and that is also a fuel for me just to kind of continue to do the work and force myself to tell the story that I need to tell.
So you feel like that continues to inform like all the work that you produce, or like how you navigate, how you move through the world?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it also made me feel like even though the challenges that I go through is to always kind of like work with people who are related to me, give chances, opportunity to people like me, particularly the actors and the cast that I want to include in my film, an actual deaf character, because the character who's an actual deaf actress was born into a deaf family. And she's not an actress, by the way, she's a non-traditional. So that makes me really like, you know what, I have to stick to the fact that give opportunities if I'm not gonna get the opportunity that I need.
Totally, that makes sense. Excuse me. I actually wanted to also hear if you have any commentary on accessibility in the film industry overall. Like how could film sets be more accessible?
Give more chances, give more opportunities, open doors for people, and never underestimate the qualities of people with disability. Because, you know, like someone told me when we were trying to cast the actress, and it was so hard to find the deaf actor. We literally found her about like a week or 2 weeks before actually making the film. And the person told me never underestimate the quality of a performer, to have someone act as a deaf. And that made me think, I'm like, why can we never underestimate the people who is actually like disabled? So why are we not saying that? So I think the industry needs to kind of like never underestimate the ability of not only actors, but filmmakers. You never know what they're gonna bring, or the story that they have, and the perspective they share with you, something different.
Right, yeah, totally. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that, you know, it's hard to tell, like these kinds of stories, like it requires some intimacy and vulnerability as well, right? And I think that makes me think of Bilal and Bria. Like for you, you're sharing a film that's so deeply personal to like your family life, and like how you're kind of thinking through things. So as a father-daughter duo, how was it working on that film together? And yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I do sometimes think, is it too much too soon for her? Because obviously you submit, you don't know if you're gonna get into the festivals, things like that. But it's been good. I'm making sure I can tell if she's getting annoyed at me, you know, like we're rehearsing and things like that and talking. But I think we kept our bond, you know, kept our bond strong. Like, how do you feel today? Okay, you know what I mean? What do you want to talk about? Like, what do you want to do? Like, she's comfortable now. She's ready. She was out there breakdancing. So I think Bria, if she wants to continue this, could be the next great American artist if she wants to continue down this path. And I think once, like the Bria I see at home, it's just like Tiffany Haddish mixed with Eddie Murphy, like all day, every day. Like she's a straight Leo. Like, you know, I haven't got through a movie in years because she's just always in our face, like dancing or something. So I'm just proud of her. It was just great working with her on this. You got any thoughts on it? No, okay.
Actually, my question is next for you, Bria. So you're giving me a look. So yeah, I'm just curious to know, like, yeah, how, I feel like there's like this messaging that, you know, your parent knows best and that you should just kind of like listen to whatever they say, because, you know, you're gonna just trust their lead, right? But in a creative space, as a filmmaker, as a, you know, budding filmmaker, you have to make decisions on your own and like kind of like have your own creative voice. So how did you maintain that during the filmmaking process with your dad? Like, did you feel like were there times where you like disagreed and you wanted to, you know, make sure your point of view was heard?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So y'all just were all on the same page.
Yeah, I think so. Like with like Bria, like choosing the animations, like choosing the music, and writing it completely by herself. So it wasn't like I didn't have to go in and say, "Oh, Bria, do this again, do that." Like it was just her just going in, and she went in. So yeah, I think it was really seamless. I think this process, the interviews and stuff like that, I'm making sure that she's good. Because at this age, I wouldn't have been able to handle this at 10 years old. So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, for you, how did you navigate, or like how were you thinking through, like wanting to see it through, wanting to see the film through, but also as a father, you don't want to put too much on your child. So like, was that a tricky balance? Was that at all? Did that come up for you as a balance?
Yeah, because I remember being younger, being a star athlete, the pressure I felt from friends, the coaches, my dad. I was really careful how I dealt with Bria. Like, someone was so talented, I didn't want to turn her away, because I ended up hating the sport of track because of all the pressure and all that stuff. So I was just really delicate, making it fun, making sure we're joking back in the green room. Like last night, we were joking around, dancing and stuff like that. So trying to make it fun. And like, as long as she's happy doing it, it's all good. You know what I mean? But it's all, yeah.
We got to see some of those dance moves, Bria. I'm hearing that you got some moves. Okay, so when making a film, you know, obviously there are a lot of different moving parts that help everything come together. But through everyone's process, was there ever a task or a role that seemed to be like underrated, meaning like not a lot of people might like talk about the importance of this particular thing when making a film? Was there anything that came up like that for you? And yeah, was there anything that you would consider like underrated that really helped your story come along?
For us, there was one thing. We wanted to make sure that there are people with albinism behind the camera too. And so we brought in a makeup artist named Jennifer, and she was really great. And she brought some amazing makeup looks to the project. And there's something that you may not always think about, but if your topic has to do with skin a bit, you want to maybe put focus on that in the crew as well.
Mm-hmm. And the makeup for your film was beautiful.
Thank you.
Anything come up, a role or a task?
No, I just think when you're trying something new, like working with kids, my kid, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, it's different. You know, it really is different. I'm used to doing documentaries where it's just me and my camera, just talking to the camera. So it's just a delicate balance when you're working with kids, just make sure she's still happy and comfortable, things like that. So yes, I learned a lot working with her. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that kind of brings me to this next thing of what that I've been thinking through around. So, you know, Erykah Badu iconically says, you know, I'm an artist. I'm sensitive about my, you know, ish. So for you all, after you like create the film, you then have to put it out in the world. So what's it like to actually produce something that's so close to you and then put it out? Like, yeah.
For me, I think, well, I have to say that it was the most like proudest moment for me, because like my first time, and it's like a baby. You feel like I never felt of, like I'm not a mom, but it felt like, oh, you need to be protective. Do I send it to this? Do I send it out? Do I share it? Not share it? But it also, I think it's very important. Like I'm trying to fight hard to continue to send a message. Like I want as much people, as much see this film, as much you know, exposure for it to really consider it. I think that's for me.
Yeah.
How does it feel to have Jasmine as a star and see yourself on screen?
It's surreal. It's so different from looking at it on your TV or your laptop, like actually sitting in the theater and looking, like that's my big face right there. But as far as your question, in the aspect of me, you know, being an illustrator and a beauty influencer doing YouTube, I always feel like, especially with my art, I'm such like, this is my baby, like I don't want nobody to look at it, I don't want nobody to judge it. But then my teacher, I remember he always said, this is not just yours, you need to give it to the world. Let the world experience what you've created. So yeah, we wanted to keep, you know, that's our baby, but allow everybody else to experience it as well. So that's how I, you know, see everything.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is surreal. And you think about it for so long, like when you have just a script, but you don't have the funds yet, and you don't have, you know, all your actors yet, and you don't have your locations yet, you dream of this moment right here. And so being here now and knowing all that we went through, our entire team, we worked so hard to get the film done. It feels really great, but it won't feel real until it's like over. And then you're like starting the process again with the next film.
Yeah, I think with us is, it was interesting because this is in most of the footage is inside my home. You know, I'm like, oh man, we didn't do the dishes that day. Like they can see everything going on. I was like, man, some junk. So it was really personal. Like my wife's a major part of the movie, and you know, I didn't want to put her on blast. Like she was cool, but she's a major part of the film. Like her, you know, her caring about the pandemic, like really caring about the pandemic. We call her Little Fauci, and she really, you know what I mean, really intense about the pandemic. She has good intentions, but the effect that had on Bria, like there still was an effect. You try to protect you, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it was really personal bringing cameras in the house. So I just had to forget it. There's junk on the floor. It's fine. It's about the story. So you know, don't worry about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Joe, you mentioned like the process of like, you know, there being limitations because of lack of resources like funding or talent or sets or whatever. So for all of you, like what advice would you give an aspiring filmmaker who feels like they might not have enough? You know, like they're like, I want to start, but I don't have enough. What would you say to them?
That's a good question, because my first two films, for years I spent years trying to break down the doors of Hollywood as a screenwriter, fellowships, all these big entities, but I was waiting for someone to allow me to make something. But the lesson from my film in 2020 that made BlackStar, Midnight Oil, and this one, I made it with my cell phone, and Bria made it with the cell phone, most of the footage that she took. So don't wait on anybody, especially like a city like Philly with such a close-knit film community. Like you just get a few friends and just do it. Like Midnight Oil in 2020, I got my phone. I was waiting for people to gift me all this equipment out, and it was something that clicked. Get your cell phone and do the darn thing, and just do it. I'm not waiting for anybody anymore. Tell the story from your heart. Make that story bleed into that paper. You know what I mean? And tell that story. So I don't wait for anybody anymore. I spent like 10 years waiting, and nothing happened. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. And instead of focusing on what you don't have, because if you were to ask me when I was making any of the projects that I've worked on, I would say like, I don't have enough. I don't have enough. But what do you have? And what is available to you? What friends do you have that are supportive of your dream? Do you have some people who are willing to hold the microphone for you? Do you have, like, what do you have? And then sometimes you write a script around what you do have. Like, we adjusted our project based on the amount of money that we were able to fundraise. We changed it from like a 90-something page script to a 40-something page script. You know, what do I have with the resources that I have? What can I make that is still powerful, that will still reach people and still get our project out into the world? But looking on what we do have and making something from there. If it is a cell phone, it's a cell phone. You know, if it's a friend with a camera, it's a friend with a camera. And just taking it from there, because it'll keep growing. I feel like what I have now is more than what I had before Jasmine and before the short film I made before that.
I definitely agree with everything they said. I mean, I'm still learning myself. I'm still trying to figure out what can I do, how to, you know, work with nothing. But I learned from my experience that no matter what, I think there's never going to be enough amount of time and never enough amount of money. So you just gotta work with what you have, like she said, and just do it.
Yeah,
Just do it.
Just get out there and do it. Yeah. I'm curious to know, since for many of you, this might be a second or maybe third project that you've produced. So keeping that in mind, that like from where you started, you might not have had enough, and you might not ever have enough. But like for you as artists, how have you grown since like the first kinds of projects that you've produced? How have you changed as artists and creators?
Yeah, I would just say more confidence, more confidence. And also want to add to what I said before. If you don't have much, there's a place called Scribe Video Center in West Philly that changed my life. There's a person named Louis Masai, who's like a MacArthur genius. He's just right there chilling in West Philly, just sitting there chilling, just right there at your disposal. And stuff like that, having those resources and the confidence. You walk in that room and they're there like, yes, welcome. We're here to help you, you know. And so I just being more confident, and yeah, that boost from BlackStar in 2020 helped. And yeah, it's just confidence and just doing it, but you still never know. You submit and you just don't know, and you don't know if you're gonna get in. But yeah, so there's things I'm trying to teach her. It's just being more confident and things like that.
Like I said earlier, the first thing I ever made that I wrote and directed, and I co-directed with a friend in college, was a web series, and it was a mockumentary, and it was really fun, and it showed me that I could make something, I could come up with it in my head, and then make it a reality that people could watch on a screen, right? I think the difference now is that it's like I can do more than I ever thought. There was a part of me that thought I could only do mockumentaries because that's the first thing I did. And I was like, I love The Office, I can do something like that. And they talk to the camera. And so the next project was a mockumentary. And I think even the project after that was a mockumentary. And then something clicked where I was like, wait though, I could also do something different. I could tell a more traditional film or not, or an experimental film too. I think it's like moving the boundaries that we place on ourselves. I didn't see a ton of people who were directors that looked like me growing up, so I didn't know I could, but then you can.
Yeah, totally.
For me, I think it made me reflect on myself and kind of like think, who am I as an artist, as opposed to just who am I as an, besides being not an artist, and kind of like learn more about myself and what do I really want to tell, what kind of story that I really want to tell, or what kind of person who I am. I think that's what made me learn and grow.
Love that, yeah. Iyana, I was wondering if you wanted to answer. I know that even for you, like your YouTube channel has been growing, and so like from when you first started to now, how have you changed as a creative?
When I first started YouTube, I was actually doing a lot of hair content. I still do my hair content, but I feel like I wanted to branch out and do more, like do vlogs. What am I doing to be an influencer since I'm a full-time influencer now? Show like the real aspect of who I am and what I do. So incorporate vlogs. I love my clothes. Do some fashion content. So I didn't want to just stick to one thing. I didn't want to just be known for like, oh, she does hair. So I'm always get her with the hair. Yeah, I do hair, but come get dressed up with me. Makeup, things like that. So I want to broaden my horizon with what I just do, not just be stuck in a bubble.
Yeah, I think that this bubble that you and Joe are talking about is an interesting point. I think especially as makers of color, like we often get put into these boxes. So you two already kind of talked about it, but I don't know if anyone wants to say more about like how do you push against those, well, one, the expectations or the boundaries that we put on ourselves, but also like as an industry, like there seem to be these limitations on like how far we can go.
I would probably say, I feel like that's a mind thing with the limitations. Excuse me. With the limitations, I feel like it's a mind thing because, especially for me, since I'd never seen anybody that did like influencing, I was like, well, I don't know if I can do it, or anybody doing on YouTube, especially YouTube. I didn't see anybody that looked like me. So I'm just like, well, do I need to be in this space? And I'm like, yeah, I need to be in this space. Not for just myself, but for somebody else that looks like me, because you never know. And with the movie and everything like that, I have never seen like a movie with somebody that had albinism. And I feel like if I would have seen it when I was 16, that would have helped me with my confidence, So I feel like representation is so important, regardless if you're in that space or not. Just be there in that space, So, yeah.
Did you want to answer it all? Okay. No.
Yeah, I think being from small town in Chester, Pennsylvania, and coming to the big city, Philadelphia, like the thing I've been trying to remind Bria whenever I or she gets nervous, we're backstage, and say, don't forget who you are. Like you're at UPenn, one of the top schools in the world. Like, no, that doesn't matter. You come from great artists, so we keep repeating that to each other. Like, so that helps me. Like, we all have doubt as artists, you know what I mean? And don't forget who you are. Remember who you come from. Like, remember your grandmom, and your grandfather, and your aunts, and things like that, and your parents. Like, don't forget who you are. That always, like, helps me put my chest up. No matter what space it is, it doesn't matter. Don't forget who you are.
Yeah, do not forget who you are. That's a beautiful message. And I think that so many young people are going to receive that, and that's something that you have to, stick with and like just keep in your back pocket as you move through the world. I think that I'm wondering, you know, this is a panel about childhood cinema, and so we're hoping to reach people who either want to work with young people and have them a part of the filmmaking process, or young people who they themselves want to go out and create. So like, what advice would you have for either of those parties, people who want to work with young people or people who want to create stories about young people?
If you want to create stories about young people, I feel like a good way to do it, especially if you are not as young anymore, is to, you know, go somewhere and just like observe them a little bit. I think it helps. Like, I like to go to the mall and I literally sit in a Barnes & Noble near like the teen section, the young adult novels, and there will be kids there talking and just having fun. And I will listen and just keep it fresh, especially when you're writing dialogue for a young 16-year-old character. You want it to sound authentic. You don't want it to sound like a 30-year-old woman writing a 16-year-old. So definitely just staying with the people. Like, go on TikTok and watch a few TikToks and see what is important to youth today, because they do have something to say, and it should be valued, especially from young women.
Yeah, I just think I think, like, making, just like she was saying, making sure the piece is in the kid's voice. That's why it's important that she wrote this 100% by herself. It was all her voice, how she saw the world. So just keep it in her voice, and I think that's really important, working with kids.
Totally. Bria agrees. Give a hands up. So for, well, Joe, you just mentioned like going out and maybe people watching and going on TikTok. So what avenues do you all use to like get inspired to create? Or is there a particular, and you mentioned like Louis Messiah, who we love. So like, are there people that you go to, or is there something that you might watch or read? Like, how do you get inspired?
For me, it's music. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that new Beyonce album is fire. Like, that got me hyped. We were playing out on our way in yesterday. We were just jamming, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, we were just jamming. So, like, I think music, watching other artists. Like, I have a friend, Bettina Escariza. Like, she's a lab fellow. Her movie premieres Sunday. Talking to her, like, we'd encouraging each other for years, you know what I mean? Just talking to my filmmaker friends. Because it's nothing like the Philadelphia film community. There's nothing like this, I don't think, you know? So, yeah, just talking to friends and being inspired by, you know, finding inspiration. My daughter's my inspiration for this. Yeah,
yeah, music is a definite, like, inspirational outlet, and it's helpful to listen to songs. Like, I create a Spotify playlist usually when I'm working on a project, and songs that get me in the mood of some writing. And I would also say another thing that's just really helpful is having a community of other writers that you can show your script to, and they can give you notes. I don't know, I feel so inspired when I read someone else's work or watch someone else's film, and I just like, oh, I can't wait to go make something now.
I think for me, when I get inspired is by seeing things that are not being screened, the missing things, like why it's not there, why it's not there. So I kind of want to do something different. Oh, we're still missing this, we're still missing that. And that's what's bothering me.
Yeah. Iyana, do you?
Yeah, I wanted to say music is very inspirational. I love 90s music, so that's me. Okay. As far as like me being like a artist as well, like illustration, I feel like really Pinterest inspires me, especially when I get creative block. Pinterest, I love Pinterest. Yeah. And also like other artists out here, you know, when I took art history, the older artists that did it before me, you get inspired, you know, take bits and pieces and make your own thing. So I feel like a lot of things, as far as like older artists, Pinterest, nature inspires me a whole lot, and you know, other artists and things like that. So.
Yeah, sitting out with them trees, get you together. Yes. Bria, did you did some animation for your film, or your dad just mentioned that you been doing animation. Are there any other things that might inspire you when you create things?
Probably painting or listening to music, because sometimes when I'm alone in my room and like I hear this really good song, I might repeat the part that I like over and over again. And sometimes, mostly, all the time I dance to the song, like really. And when I paint,
Yeah, she's a really good artist. Like her room, I can imagine what the young Picasso was like, his bedroom, because it's like her, it just pours out of her skin. Like the whole room is painted. Like, and once again, the 80s upbringing I had, I gotta take a breath. Like she grew up in Montessori schools, it's different. So it's like the whole room is painted. Like she just painted like a dresser and your bookcase, things like that. It's like, okay, it's a different generation. She's an artist, this is what she does, right?
about my bookcase, you painted it for me.
I know, but yeah.
That sounds amazing. I would love to see your bedroom. That would be a good Pinterest. A good Pinterest pin. So for people who are wanting to like keep up with what you all are doing and like see where you're headed, like where would you say the direction of your filmmaking is going? Like, what do you plan on doing next? Yeah.
For me, I want to continue to make films, of course. I do plan to make another film that talks about disability. What else? That was a question?
Yeah, like what's next for you personally? It could be about your filmmaking or whatever. I think you answered it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I would say I would like to continue acting, since my first time ever acting was with Joe in the movie. I would be very open to continue acting and continue to spread awareness and representation of people with albinism in a positive light. So that's something I'll be, interested in continuing to do.
Mm-hmm. That makes me so happy to hear. And she's a Sephora influencer now too.
Sephora.
She got herself some deals. I'm so proud of her.
That's amazing.
What's next for me? I write on the show Good Trouble on Freeform.
Wow.
I love that show so much, so I'm just very grateful. We are on season 4 right now, and we just got renewed for season 5. Wow. So my episode comes out on August 11th. It'll drop on Hulu on the 12th. And I co-wrote that episode, so that'll be next personally. And with filmmaking, I want to make more films. I really want to make a short film before the end of the year. So I'm going to just try to rush into that and just do it. Because I feel weird if I'm not directing at least a couple times a year. It feels odd to not do that.
My dad is working on this track film. It's about kids who run track and what their life is like. And I helped film it, and I really want to be an archaeologist, or I just plant lots of things in random places in my mom's garden. And I planted a peach in my backyard. I don't know what's going to happen, though.
That's cool.
So yeah, we're working on that track film. It's basically like the movie Hoop Dreams, but for track, you know what I mean? So it's one of my favorite documentaries, and I'm following my old high school in Chester High School, their journey to the Penn Relays in Philadelphia, one of the biggest track meets in the world. Like Carl Lewis was there, so we finished that. Bria helped me with that, and yeah, I think that's next. Just continue to make stuff with my friends in Philly, and my daughter if she wants to, and yeah, that's it.
Something that happened while my dad was about to film, I hardly got any sleep. So, and it was like a really cold day, so I was so mad because I wanted to go, but I didn't. I only went to like get food. I stayed in the car for most of the time. I didn't want to put my hoodie on because it was too small, so I like started crying because I just wanted food. And yeah.
Yeah, she pulled it together, and she did the camera work for me at that particular track meet. So as long as she wants to do this, like I'm here for it. That's what I tell her, So she was really helpful.
Thank you for sharing that, Bria. It's actually making me think about, like, there are going to be different things that come up in our personal lives that kind of create barriers in a way for us to, like, do the things we need to do. Do you have any advice for folks who are who are trying to push through but just kind of need that extra push. Is there anything that kind of keeps you motivated?
I would say what keeps me motivated, especially during those times when I'm just like, I don't want to do this, should I be doing this? I always think about my 16-year-old self when I was a kid, because that keeps me motivated, just my 16-year-old self and people that look like me, because I'm just like, if I'm not going to do it, I don't want to let myself down. I don't want to let, anybody else that looks like me down, because I need to be in this space for somebody to look up to me as well. So I feel like my 16-year-old self and people that look like me keep me going, keep me motivated, keep me pushing. So I feel like it's so important to have something that keeps you going, because if you don't, it's going to go to the wayside.
Totally.
I would say do it scared. Do it feeling anxious. Just do it no matter how you feel. Sometimes, even if you feel like really scared to like direct something or to be on a panel, just do it anyway. Just do it, and you'll be happy that you did.
I would say if you take that step, like that first time I went to Scribe, like 10 years ago, Scribe Video Center in West Philly, I was terrified. It was a screenwriting class. But I think if you cross that threshold and you move forward, the universe will protect you. Your destiny will catch up with, with what you want to do. So, and also inspiration. I lost my mom when I was 6, and I don't remember her at all. She died when I was 6, and she was only 29. So and I don't have many pictures back in the 80s. Video was really expensive, video cameras, my dad told me. So I'm creating documents for my daughter and my son. Our last film was about climate change and the effects of that on the South Philly neighborhood. The last film, and when my daughter and my son are dealing with climate change now and in the future, I wanted something to keep them warm at night. Like, there's times I wish I could go to my mom for advice. She's not here, and my dad's still here. I'm going to create a document to say, number one, I was here, and number two, they can have something they can see, like, oh, that's my dad. That's how he felt about this or that. Like, so just try to tackle major topics, the pandemic, climate change, and everything else to try to work on.
Did you want to answer, Bria?
If you have something you really want to do, but you just can't do it, try and do something else, or try and do it, because you could do anything, and don't give up. That's what my mom... That's what my mom, my whole family said to me. She's right there.
Shout out to Mom. That's amazing, and like just trying to push through and not giving up, because there's too much happening in the world that's like trying to make us give up. So we should definitely be pushing through. And I think what you just said, Bilal, about like climate change, and I know that the film that you worked on was about the oil refinery here in Philly, and like it's almost like you all are creating these time capsules of the moment, like for the good and the bad. So how do you imagine that people will, or what do you hope people take from the things that you create, even if it was like 100 years from now? Like, what would you hope people kind of get from it?
I would say I hope that people start to have more empathy. And I feel like empathy is really important, that we are not really feeling it or missing it, and we just kind of like focus on being just doing and stuff like that. So I do hope that they can take an empathy of what I'm doing, an impact, be inspired, and kind of like, build a community and grow together. To tell things that it matters, and make an impact doing it.
I mean, I hope people take away from our film perseverance. There's a lot of like, okay, maybe sometimes you have to do it yourself and put yourself out there. That's a big theme in the film, so just persevering, hopefully 100 years from now, someone were to come across and like, okay, I feel like I can tackle that goal today after watching Jasmine is a Star.
I want kids to take away from me and my dad's film, just to let them know that you're always not alone. You can do anything you want. Not anything. But you could follow your passion and yeah.
Yeah, and it's a good question because I narrowed my audience a few years ago because I was trying to please everybody. I said, this film is for my two kids and for me to heal wounds, you know what I mean? Like my experience at the refinery and then the pandemic, her wounds. And I think in turn, if you narrow your focus, you know what I mean, it could be a universal story. Like people around the world can feel it too. So I narrowed my focus, trying to please everybody in the industry. It's like, no, this is for my kids. The last film was for them too, you know, so they can know how I felt about climate change. And this film was about her. So it's about to heal yourself, and I just narrowed my focus.
I love that.
It's funny that the more you narrow your focus, the more universal your film becomes. All of a sudden, everybody's like, I'm connected to that.
Yes, you're not trying to please everybody. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That
for
is
them.
a good point.
Yeah. Because, like, you know, they love family, they love you regardless. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, this is for them.
Oh, yes.
And then in turn, it was the first film that connected, you know what I mean, with people. So.
I thought you were saying something. For you, Joe, I mean, that seems like it resonated for you. Like, did you have to go through that process of, you know, narrowing your focus and like who your target audience is or who you're making things for?
I think, you know, you want, like, it's in some ways it's a business. So you're like, oh, I want to either like make money back from this or at least like have this happen. But then there's another part of you that's like, this is for your soul. I made this for my soul. I made this for the young version of myself that would have loved to have seen a project like this. So I feel like I'm surprised, but not too surprised to find out that the more niche, the more narrow, and the more like specific your film is for just a certain group of people, a lot of people it resonates with. And I just think that's because you're being so personal with your own self, telling stories in your own unique way that only you could do it.
What about Iyana or Alaa? Are you thinking through like how your target audience is changing as you create, or?
I mean, your audience has definitely grown a lot since we first met.
Yeah.
Has it changed at all?
I feel like my target audience hasn't necessarily changed a whole lot. I feel like I'm, you know, since I'm growing more, I'm reaching more people, but I feel like it hasn't really changed a whole lot. I feel like my target audience is, you know, Black women with albinism, you know, first of all, and then, you know, Black people, because we're not represented a lot in things. So I feel like it hasn't really changed a whole lot. I just feel like I'm gaining more eyeballs now. So, yeah.
Okay, just making sure. I was wondering if can we open things up for Q&A? We already have a hand. Is someone here with a mic?
I can speak up.
Okay.
So we're here at the BlackStar Film Festival, and we've been able to showcase this beautiful work. You guys had a dream project, using this platform as an opportunity to maybe get some eyeballs on this dream project.
Do you have a dream project that you know that you hope to work on, and that now that you're on this platform that you might actually be able to, like, maybe you might be a little bit closer to like connecting with the people to help make that dream project happen? If that was that, okay.
I mean, as I previously mentioned about my next project, I'm trying to work with tell stories about people with disability. Mostly, my next project that I'm working on is that talks a story about a father and a daughter relationship, and who has Alzheimer's, or the father, and the daughter who's hard of hearing. So it's kind of like the story that connects them together, being disabled, but it's also about memory loss and all that. So this is how I talk, and I hope I answered that question though. So that's the project.
I would say, piggyback what I said earlier about continue to act. I know we were at in LA and somebody gave that idea of like having probably a TV series about some of albinism and their everyday life and the challenges and things like that. So I think that would be a perfect, idea. And if that ever comes up or if it ever comes to my way, I'll definitely, hop on that.
Yeah. And I feel like every project is a dream project because the fact that it gets to be made and people get to see it is just an incredible dream. I feel like in a few years, hopefully I'll be ready to meet this project that I have in mind. But I want to do something kind of based on my father. My parents are both immigrants from Jamaica. And I want to do a story about my dad. He worked on a cruise ship called the MS Southward. And I just really want to tell that story someday. It'd just be international. We're going to go to Jamaica. We're going to film it. Putting it out there.
Speak it into existence.
Well, Bria knows my favorite city is Philadelphia, but Paris, France.
I was going to say, be
careful. I got it. Like Paris, France. It's a script I wrote like 10 years ago about a Black American wannabe expat that is willfully blind against the unfair treatment of like North Africans in Paris, just because Paris has a huge history with African Americans. James Baldwin, Nina Simone, Josephine Baker, and that whole history. And it's basically about me. I've been obsessed with that history since high school, and I just wanted to live abroad in France, be like James Baldwin, follow his footsteps. But I think in my real life, I was willfully blind to the real issues they have with North Africans, people from the African diaspora. And because I just wanted a place, I wanted it to be perfect. So we were married there. I dragged my whole family there in 2009. 60 people from Chester, Pennsylvania. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it's a special place to me. But the story's complicated about this main character. So yes, it's something I kind of put away. But my friend Bettina Escariza, who's in the lab, a lab fellow, told me last night, when are you gonna make that Paris film? Because that's how we met at Scribe Video Center. Screenwriting class. I was so nervous to present it, and she was like, yes, that's a great story. So she brought it up last night. It's been so long, so that's something, just filming in Paris, I love that city. It's a magical city. Yeah. It's amazing. And I think, it'll be a great look. You see like African Americans over there, because we were over there in 2009, and it was awesome. So, yeah.
Well, if either of you need a PA, to come along for the travels, hit me up.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Can each of you speak to the? Could you guys? Oh, sorry. Can you speak to the world building that comes with having children in your work?
Did you say the world building?
The world building, yeah.
Okay. Could you speak to the world building that comes with having children in your work? And when you say world building, you mean like the environment that you create in the story that you're telling?
Yeah, so like sometimes I feel like kids view the world differently. And so how does that affect, like, do you still make it this kind of point of view from the adult, or does the child's kind of like perspective and how they view the world with the sort of bliss or ignorance play a role in creating the film or creating the world within the film?
Well, something that really helped with creating the world for our main character, Jasmine, was the music, and having that from an artist who had like a very youthful voice, and she used her music. Her voice is like the only music in the film. It's her voice looped over itself. And I think that helped bring us into a younger person's world and set the atmosphere for that. So that was something we kept in mind. And of course, choosing school location and what does her room look like. And my husband did production design. He did such a great job of like crafting Jasmine's world and making it really colorful. It was great.
Yeah, speaking of colorful, like that's why the animations are in the movie, because I wanted, like, how does Bria see the world? And that's how we were selecting the animations and the music. I use Rachel Eisnogel, like she's from Philly, but she lives in Italy now, and the animator was from Italy too. Like I was like, how would Bria see the world? So as we were directing it, like, you see the animations really colorful and how she saw the world. So yeah, just making sure it's through her eyes, like through animation on the music and things like that, and especially her words. So.
For me, and I hope I answered your question, is that the sound design for me, because I have this character who is deaf, so making the world in the perspective of a deaf girl and kind of like what she's hearing, what she's not hearing, and how she's seeing through what she is hearing or what she's not hearing. So that's the world that I created in my film.
That's a great question. Anything else? Any other questions?
I wanted to ask Bilal and Bria if they will stick with the same subject matter, because like this pandemic's gonna be with us for a while. Like every 6 months we're gonna need a booster. So I would strongly urge and recommend that you stay with the subject matter, because like you said earlier, I don't see anyone out there doing it and talking about the pandemic, how it affects our children, what they experience. So I think that would be good if you stay with it.
I agree.
Or are you going to stay with it?
Yeah, I thought about that, because the name of the film is Quarantine Kids, meaning more kids. Will it be a series? So I don't know, but that does have me thinking. You know what I mean? Especially if Bria wants to continue on with this down this path, but it doesn't look like it's going away, and it's just a never-ending. You know, like my full-time job, I'm an essential worker, and I've been dealing with this since the beginning. And I deal with contractors, and I'm a former steel worker. And there's certain people you work around that never believed in the pandemic. You know what I mean? That's frustrating. So I've been trying to dip and dodge. Like, hey, you see the Phillies game? Like, you back up 6 feet. You know what I'm saying? Like so. It's something that I'm just navigating every day, and so I think there is a story there, you know, to continue to be told. Like maybe it could be through Bria's eyes if she wants to continue to experience this, because she's much better now than when she was in the film. So, yeah.
Thanks for that question. Any other questions? I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to see.
I'm curious how you guys, especially Bria here, because I can tell she's like really anxious, because I have a 7-year-old and I know what anxious kids look like. How do you deal with, like, how are you coping with your anxieties, like both about the world and about like the newness of being in an industry that's an adult industry, you know, that is populated and worked in by adults, so you have to be, you know, project confidence even though you're nervous. So how do you do that? All of you guys.
Me, my mom, and some other people in my family, we like at home we practice the questions, and we do like our own interviews. Me and my dad sometimes do funny interviews. I interview him, and I sometimes do practice. I sometimes practice with my mom and my aunt on my dad's side. We practice, and sometimes the questions are the exact same as the ones that we practiced with. And like, so I can get used to it, and I won't just be like really nervous. Yeah.
Thank you for that question. I actually like that we're, as this conversation is winding down, we're kind of ending on this note of like, how do we move through, like, how do we push through these anxieties and like kind of have, I would describe it as like play, you know, like we're trying different things and we're gonna figure out if some things work and if some things don't work, and just be able to just experiment, right? I think that you all have shown us, like, just through this panel, I know I feel inspired by this conversation. I think that so many other people, you know, is going to resonate with. So I just wanted to say that we're at the end of the panel, and if there were any closing thoughts before we wrap up, if anyone wants to share anything.
Yeah, I just think this is I want to thank BlackStar as usual. This is the coolest festival in the world. I said that last night. There's nothing like the Philadelphia community, the people that come out and show love, and I think, I think this is a great city for filmmaking and artistry. It really is. You know what I mean? Like my journey. I was born in Mississippi. My dad's from Chester, Pennsylvania. My mom's from Mississippi. I'm just glad I landed here, connected with my friends, Scribe Video Center. There's a place in West Philly that you just have at your disposal if you want to be an artist. So, and I'm just super grateful to be in this city, in this community.
Yeah, also grateful to be here. This is my first time coming to BlackStar and coming to Philadelphia, and I'm already like blown away by how wonderful this city is.
It's a great city.
It is.
I agree with them. I mean, this is my first time as well in BlackStar and in Philly, so I'm just kind of like grateful and hoping for the best for everyone. And well, you guys.
Yeah. This is my first time here at BlackStar as well, and my first panel. So I am extremely happy and grateful for you guys wanting to interview me and do the panel. So I'm so happy about being on the panel.
Oh my God, we are so grateful for you. You just dropped so many gems and just like led us through this amazing experience of learning the ropes of filmmaking and acting and creating. So we are a little bit over time, but I think that if folks have questions, maybe there's going to be some mingling at the end of this. We'll be around if you want to ask some questions like afterwards. But yeah, thank you all so much, and I hope everyone stays safe. Stay hydrated.